generally offer what's called a merit-based scholarship. And scholarship is automatic consideration. So there is no additional criteria or additional deadlines or additional applications that students have to worry about. Every student who applies to any of the programs, whether it is the full-time MBA or the specialized master's, will automatically be considered for a merit-based scholarship. The amount of the scholarship would, of course, vary depending on the program because it is catered to the program duration. So the full-time MBA program is for 2 years. Therefore, the availability of a higher scholarship, of course, is high for the full-time MBA. Having said that, for the full-time MBA, keeping in mind that the cost is also going to be high and therefore the expenses are high, every student who is admitted into the program will receive a scholarship award. So it's not something specific or relevant to only citizenship or restricted to candidates from particular locations, but there is no restriction in terms of any criteria outside of what is there for admission. So the same criteria for admissions are the same criteria that I use for scholarships as well.
We really have one primary scholarship. It's called our Dean's Premier Scholarship, and it's really offered in tiers. So you have the lowest amount is $30,000 that we offer for students, and it's a scholarship that's broken up across 2 terms. So you'll essentially, whatever scholarship amount is given to a student, divide that by 4, and that's how it'll be distributed across 2 years in 4 different semesters. Range starts at $30,000, but it will go up in $10,000 increments all the way up to what is our highest award, which is our Dean's Premier Scholarship. And that award is a full tuition award. It covers all tuition and all associated expenses with the program. And then the real bonus with that scholarship is that we essentially give students $20,000. It's the $20,000 grant that goes towards their housing in New York City. So that is our top award. We generally give about 5 students in the program that top award. And then for the remainder of the students, we roughly about 70% will receive some form of a merit-based scholarship within that range that I mentioned. So starting at $30,000 up to the Dean's Premier Scholarship.
So the merit-based scholarship, let's be clear one more time, is automatic consideration and is available based entirely on the student's merit. And so all the items that you are submitting for admission consideration are the only things that are taken into account to determine the scholarship. So irrespective of whether there are 15 students from a particular country that are applying for the program, or one student applying from the same country, it does not matter. What matters is even if we have a majority of candidates coming from one particular location, every candidacy is evaluated individually, and based on the strength of that candidacy, the scholarship award is given to the candidate.
I think that whether it's an admissions decision that we're making or a decision on a scholarship, like I mentioned earlier, I think there's a lot of questions from prospective students about how we go about that process. And one thing I'll mention, because I tend to see this with prospects, is they think we're hyper focused on data points, and the reality is we're not. We're looking at everything within a student's application and really looking at the strength of their application through 2 perspectives, right? One perspective being, the business school perspective. Are we a good fit for you? Are you a good fit for our program? Are you going to succeed in our program? Are you going to be someone who is active, who is involved, who's going to participate in the classroom and participate in clubs and organizations? So everything in your application that will point to those strengths, whether it's your involvement in extracurriculars, potentially what you were involved with in undergrad. All those things play a role in not only our decision to admit you, but also when we're making that determination on whether you're eligible for a scholarship and how much we should provide. So that's one perspective that's really important, the business school perspective. For full-time MBA students, the other piece is the employer perspective, and we wear that hat when we're evaluating applicants, in the sense that we want someone who's going to who has thrived prior to being in the MBA. They've had an upward trajectory in their career. They've worked 5 to 6 years. They've taken on leadership positions. And we're also looking at where they want to end up post-MBA. Are they someone who is employable? Are they making a career pivot that is feasible? And that's a really important part of the evaluation process. We want to set up our students for success. So being able to determine, based off what a student was doing prior to the MBA and based on what their goals are, if that is something that is feasible and we think they can achieve that through our MBA program, then that's something that will certainly play a role in whether or not we give them a scholarship.
The way schools decide to distribute their finite pool of scholarships is based on two things. First of all, which candidates help them achieve their objectives. So that's things like people with a really high GMAT score, people from a really rare demographic, people who are going to help them achieve their portfolio goals with respect to the class, with respect to the quality of the class, with respect to the rankings. Those are the people that they're going to offer scholarships to, because it just helps their case. It helps them achieve their goals. But the other way they make the decision on who to give money to is based entirely on the personal preference of the person in charge of making the money decisions. So they're human. Just like you, they're gonna wanna give money to the people that they really like and the people that they really believe in. And so our clients all end up submitting applications that really show their authentic self in the most inspiring way possible. And I already said that we're working with people who want to make change happen. So they already have the capacity to inspire with their vision. And we just make sure that that comes out in the application, in addition with presenting a confidently humble picture of who the candidate truly is. When you do that, you're inherently lovable. You are inherently someone that the reader of applications is going to personally like and feel emotionally connected to. And therefore, they're going to go to bat for you getting scholarships. So our success rate on scholarships, as far as I know, is so far beyond the industry average. If we average out all the scholarships that our clients get in a given year, it's more than $70,000 per person. And I attribute that success to what their application looks like when they submit it. And it's because they're presenting this real, humble, earnest, and heart-driven take on who they are that can't help but inspire the admissions committee.
And I'll speak for Fordham, and I don't want to speak for every MBA program out there, but I do know that it is fairly common. We are open for students to appeal their scholarships. And it's something that happens more and more. Ever since I started working in MBA admissions, I would say the majority of admitted students will either appeal for a scholarship increase if they received an award, or if they didn't receive a scholarship, will appeal to be reconsidered. And we have a formal process for students to go through that appeals process. They fill out a form. We have a scholarship committee who will convene and reevaluate a student either for that increase or for a scholarship if they didn't receive one. So certainly, just like salaries when you're getting a job, negotiation is okay. So we encourage students to appeal their scholarships. And I think one piece of advice I'll give to students who are looking to appeal their scholarship, it's not enough to say, hey, I want more money. Or, hey, I can't believe I didn't get a scholarship, please reconsider, right? You have to make a case. And I think that's really important. Picture an appeals committee in a very similar light as an admissions committee. Looking at your appeal, they're looking at what you wrote and making a decision. So the more substantive information you can give about why you feel you deserve a scholarship increase or a scholarship altogether, the more likely you are to get that appeal granted.
After all of our clients have gotten their decisions, I lead a training program in which I teach them how to go and ask for more money from schools and to actually be effective at doing so. And I encourage everyone, we really push all of our clients to go and ask for more money, to negotiate more scholarships, because the worst thing that can happen is they'll say no. And this is great training for your post-MBA job negotiation when you're gonna have to negotiate your compensation anyway. So now is a really low risk time to get good at that. So that's actually part of our training program, is to help our clients go and do that.
There is room to negotiate. I would not say that every negotiation is going to go in favor of the student, but we don't stop a student from speaking with us. We would love to have a student always come back to us and explain why they think they want to negotiate the scholarship offer. Some students do so, like you initially pointed out, based on need. And that's a whole different aspect of consideration, because we primarily offer all scholarships based only on merit, so not a separate pot for need-based scholarships. So if it is based on need, then it goes into a different type of consideration, as I explained, depending on how much endowed award money might be available to accommodate such requests, right? So it goes into a different kind of a process, which involves senior management as well as the admissions review committee. Any award that goes into negotiation based on offers from a competitor school or based on test score evaluation, that stage goes back to the admissions committee, and they review it and come back with given the rest of the candidacy of the candidate, we think this is a very generous offer, or we are willing to increase the offer. In the time that I've been here at Whitman since 2014, I have seen very generous scholarships coming from the school. The school is very mindful of the financial stress, if you will, that is placed on students, both domestic and international, and so does not restrict scholarships based on citizenship requirements or any other specific requirement. If a student is good enough to be admitted to the school, they will be considered automatically for a scholarship and everything that it entails. Education USA offices typically have lists of financial resources per country. There might be private foundations that offer them as well. So this is, again, like I said, there's a lot of legwork that a student has to do. There might be databases that are available, but I personally, having been an international student myself in the US and seeing the process evolve and going through the whole system of education, I would not recommend for any student to borrow from a US institution, even if they have a guarantor, because US banks will not provide, educational loans unless you have a US citizen as guarantor. I would not recommend doing that, because you're borrowing in host currency and you will have to pay in host currency, which could add a different type of pressure. So I would encourage people to look at options in the home country to seek, resources and ways in which you can offset costs.
On the whole, American schools have a bigger pool of scholarships to allocate to their students. And that's just because the US MBAs are so expensive. They're still more expensive than European MBAs and Asian MBAs and MBAs from all over the world. So they really need to supplement the cost of the MBA for a percentage of their student body. They're making those decisions based on merit, based on the two things I said, their goals, and then just how much they love the candidate. But essentially, the likelihood of getting a merit-based scholarship from a US institution on the average is going to be higher than at a school outside of the US, just because they have more money to distribute.
The important thing, though, is for students to not discount smaller amounts of assistance because it's not as prestigious as receiving a $10,000 award or a named award. I would say look into every possibility and tap into every possibility and capitalize on all of the opportunities.
One thing I always tell students is you want to be authentic. And one of the mistakes that a lot of students make in the application process is they write an essay or they put things in their application the admissions committee wants to see. They've read it on blogs. This is what admissions committees are looking for. You have to say that you've held this title, and you have to write about this topic in your essay. And the reality is that is a one-way ticket to not differentiating yourself if you're doing what every applicant is doing. And we review 20, 30 applications a day, even more on in busy portions of the cycle. Be yourself, be authentic, especially in your interview. We want to talk to human beings. We want to know what makes you different, what makes you unique. And I think that is one way to differentiate yourself and put yourself in a better position to receive a scholarship, is if the admissions committee can see someone who is genuine, and when you are authentic, we can see your strengths. We can evaluate your strengths, I think, in a brighter light. So that's one thing I always tell students who are just getting started with the application. Certainly use resources to get a sense of what a strong MBA applicant looks like. But when it comes down to putting your application together and writing your essays and preparing for your interview, being yourself and being authentic is, I think, one of the most important qualities you can bring to the process.